Hey, and welcome back to another Revit video. In this video, we're going to look at another Dynamo script. It's a fairly simple script, and I'll be honest, it's helpful. It's not something I'm going to use all the time, but when it comes to model management, this is definitely going to come in handy. So before we get into it, if at any point in this video you happen to learn something, please demolish that like button. Really helps me out a lot. Also, comment in the comment section below what you think of this script, if it's helpful, if you like it, if you have any problems with it. Anything else you have, leave those in the comment section below. Definitely curious about that. And of course, like all the Dynamo scripts we talk about, you can find a link to them in the description below. Okay, getting into it now. We're looking at warnings. Now, of course, we can come up here to manage and we can see warnings. Well, if I click all these warnings, I will say this is just the sample Revit 2022 project. So there's nothing really fancy about anything being wrong. There's only a few errors here, and we can see there's a number of warnings, probably like 4 warnings, and within each of these we have certain elements that pop up, and this is a fine way of going through and like assessing the warnings, but we want to look at things a certain way. We want to actually visualize things in this case, and when it comes to warnings, that can be really helpful and quite powerful, and we can do that with Dynamo. So I'm going to open the Dynamo player, and if you look for reviewing warnings using Dynamo, you find lots of kind of generic scripts, and this one is fairly generic in that it does similar things to those, but I've added another bit to it so that it does customize it a bit, and it might give you a little more information, a little more specific information that you might be looking for. So what is going to happen? Well, of course, I always build in a ready to proceed. Are you ready? Basically to get you to the inputs. Now that does error out the script, but we don't really care about that because it's not going to cause any problems, and I build the script so they don't do that. So let's go ahead and click review warnings, and we'll see what happens. Of course, we go to the inputs, but what I want to know, and what I want you to know, is that what's actually happening in the script is it will override just the visuals of what's going on in your particular view. In this case, I'm in a 3D view, and I'd recommend you start with that, but it will work in any view. It will work in a floor plan. So it's nice because you can work within a plan or within a specific view that you're working with, and then diagnose the warnings that are per that view, which is really great. And so, of course, I'm ready to proceed. But the cool thing here is because I've kind of run this already, basically it's because I've run and got to this point, I'm getting all the warning types that are in my model. And you could see here that the warning types here, we've got the 3 here, they're associated with these 3 as well, which is really great. And so the point here is, we're going to, what's ultimately going to happen is that every element that has a warning is going to receive just kind of an orange override color. Okay, easy enough. But what's going to happen to these that we select specifically? So let's say a wall. There's a number of walls here that will ultimately be selected. What's going to happen here is that these elements that fall under this particular warning type will turn red instead of orange. So basically every element that turns a color is going to have a warning, which that in of itself is good to know. And again, this is regardless of the view that you're in. And of course, we'll see the total number of elements with warnings right now. I'm just getting the 1 because it's basically aired out, getting to this point. So now we are essentially ready. There's nothing else to do. This is a very simple script. Just know that it's going to override the graphics of the view that you're in. And, we'll get to what that means in just a second. So let's go ahead and run this. So we can see this is very interesting, and I've done it this way because I think this is really helpful. We don't actually lose any of the elements we don't like hide anything. So everything is here. Everything is still there, as it was before, at least, before you ran the script. But what we see is that every element that doesn't have a warning is kind of grayed out, transparent, and like it's in the background. And we can see that these elements here are, the orange and red in particular, are the ones that have those warnings. And so if I want to select this, I can see, of course, there's a warning. If I select this wall, of course, there's a warning, which is really great. And so it's giving me all these elements that have warnings. And of course, I can see here that there are a total of 7 elements that have warnings. And so let's go back to my warnings here, and let's expand all of this and see how many warnings there are. And okay, there are 4 warnings, and we see, okay, there's a couple there, There's one there. If basically we count these up, the total number of elements within these warnings is going to be that number there, which is, I think, really helpful. And so the cool thing is I can just simply run this and say, all right, yep, that one. And we're going to rerun it and get basically the exact same thing, of course, but now we've got this stair that is a problem, and that's going to be that particular type. So it's helpful, and I found it helpful managing models, this way, diagnosing warnings, dealing with warnings. I prefer to do it visually more than just a list, because ultimately what I do with the list is that I come to this point and realize, oh, I need to show this, and it pops up some view I'm not wanting to look at and all that, so it's kind of a pain. Now, if you want to override this or redo this, we can always undo these scripts, and just know that every script that runs can be undone, essentially. Of course, there's a number of reasons why you might not be able to undo something, whether syncing or closing, whatever. So just know that. But I'm going to go to my level 1 and see what happens here. So I'm basically in a new view. I'll refresh this. And so I'm ready to proceed. And yeah, let's go ahead and pick these walls. We'll get these overrides. Look at that. It worked like a charm. I've still got the 7 warnings, and I can select these particular walls that have these warnings. Great. And so it's real easy to diagnose your model and deal with these warnings in a different way. And I prefer visually. So that's really cool. So this script, again, will be in the description below. Of course, you can always find that. And I will definitely leave all the packages included in the description, as well as where you ultimately download it, as to which packages you need to run this thing. And I will say right now that all these scripts that I'm coming out with are done within Revit 2022. Not to say it would not work in 21 or 20, but you're going to have the most luck, and well, I will say you will have the luck that you expect to have for running these scripts in Revit 2022. I cannot necessarily speak to Revit 2020. It's been kind of hard going back and forth to make sure they run in both, but I've been doing my best. So I will say this is definitely for 2022, and you can confidently run it there. So again, that will do it. If you have any questions about this, again, leave those in the comment section below. Happy to answer all of them. Let me know what you think about scripts, this one in particular, anything else, or any other script that you might have floating around in your mind that you might think would be useful. So if you happen to learn something, please demolish that like button. It really, really helps, man, a lot. And I'll see you in the next video. Have a wonderful day, and thank you very much for watching.